Hello and welcome to eMultiskills video tutorial. In this video tutorial, we will learn about Postgres cluster. So, okay, so what is a Postgres cluster? When we say cluster, it means a number of nodes which are connected together and they are serving as one unit. Or multiple database instance which are connected together and called as a cluster. But this is not that cluster in PostgreSQL. When we say Postgre cluster, it means it is a collection of databases which are managed by a single Postgre instance. So that instance will have its own background process and it will have its own PG data. So what are the different components of the term cluster in Postgres? So we have something called as data directory. So let's say when you install Postgre on Linux system or on let's say Windows system, there is something called as data directory wherein all the files which is related to the database, tables and other logical entities are created and they are specific to that particular instance. By default, we create only one instance if there is no need to create another instance. So that data directory is being managed by the Postgres processes. So it manages all the data directory files and interfaces of those contents. So when we say cluster, it means two things: combination of data directory and Postgres process. What is the use of having one more cluster when you already have one instance? So you can say it as it is a temporary database which you can create outside of the existing instance. You can make any changes in the new PG data directory, let's say postgresql.conf or pg underscore hba dot conf file, and that is separate from the default instance which you have installed. Or there is another purpose. You can have a different version of the Postgre at the same time. So you create one more instance, you test the environment, or you can have multiple versions, or you can create the database in the new instance, or in layman language we'll say having one more instance with its own data and the background process. So how can we create a new instance? So to create a new instance, you have to create a new data directory for the cluster. So you log into your existing cluster. Let's say in my case, it is a Linux system. So I'll say sudo su hyphen postgre. You can check the current location of PG data, create a new location, and then you initialize that particular location using initdb and the new data directory location. Once the instance is instantiated, you have to configure the cluster. By default, in the existing cluster, you will have the port 5432 active. So you cannot use the same port for the new instance. So you have to change the port to a new number. So instead of 5432, let's say I'm going to use 5433 or any other. I need to change the Unix socket directory from existing. The current one will be your var run PostgreSQL, and let's say create a new location, and your Unix socket, which is required for connection from the same host, that will be used. Then you start the Postgres server once the initialization and you have changed the parameter port and Unix socket underscore directory in postgresql.conf. You initialize it using pgctl-d, give the location of new data directory and log file, that is optional, or you just say start. Then you can check whether your new instance has come up with the new processes or not using ps hyphen ps xf. So that will show you the tree structure with the postmaster at the base and other processes following that. Then once your new instance is instantiated, you can connect to that using psql-h localhost, new port, and the super user, which is Postgre. If you have to stop it, you just say pgctl-d, the location of the data directory, and if you have to give the log file name, you give it, then stop. If you have to reload, if let's say you have done some changes which then you have to reload it, just say pgctl-d, the location of new directory, and reload. So it's very simple. Pgctl location of new directory, either you say start, stop, or reload. Then we are going to perform a demo on a Linux environment, so let me take you through that. So I've listed all the steps. So I have a IP address 192. So the IP address of my host is 192.168.1.61. Operating system is 7.5 Linux, and Postgre, which is already installed with one instance, is Postgre 12. So we are going to log into that. So this is I'm logged in as root. So let's say the first step, let's say just switch the user to Postgre. So now I'm logged in as Postgre. Now just say for the existing setup, just say where is my existing data files. So echo pg data. Just go to this location and you will see these many files. And it has its own background processes as well. So you can just say psxf. So this is my current setup with one instance. So you can see postmaster is there, then these are the rest of the background processes. Now what we are going to do, we are going to create a new cluster with the new location of the data file. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new file uh, wherein wherein we will keep all the data files. So let's create it in this location. Let me log in as root, and we will say mkdir, and we will create a data directory instance 2. I think I sudo su space minus postgre. This data directory is already owned by postgre user ls-ld, and let's say check the permission. So it is already owned by postgre. Let's create this directory instance 2, wherein we are going to keep our data files. So this is created, and along with that, what we will do to keep the what do you say the 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 socket file, we will keep will create one location. So we'll create one location like um, mkdir-p home instance 2. Just give the ownership to Postgre to this particular file wherein the socket file can be created. So we have done that. Now let's start the first thing which we will do is we have created the directory, then we will say initialize db and the directory location, and everything we are going to do as Postgre user. So initdb and the new data directory location. So you can see the file belonging to this database will be owned by the user. Postgre database cluster is getting created. The user will also own the server processes, and fixing permission on existing directory, creating subdirectory. So it is going to create all the files which were there in the existing cluster. Now it is saying if you have to start the cluster, you have to use postgre-d or pgctl-d command, directory location and the log file name, and followed by either start, stop, or reload. That three things you have it. Now let's create the Postgre cluster. Configuring that means we have to change the two entries. One is the port number and another is the socket directory location. So we'll say vi slash postgresql.conf, and we have to change two parameters. One is the port because we cannot use the same port. This is already in used by the existing instance. So let's change it to 54333, and we will give the Unix socket directory as the new directory wherein the socket file will be created, and this was slash home slash uh, and we created with the name uh, slash home instance 2. So let's create put this. We have done this. Now we have to restart. Is first of all we have to start the instance for the first time. So we'll say starting Postgres server. So we'll say pgctl -d and followed by the directory location, then log file, that's optional, and you can say just start. So starting, so this will start within a couple of seconds, and we will check using ps space xf. So if you execute this, you will see one is with my new location, new data directory. So this is my new data directory, and this was the old data directory. So these set of background processes for old instance, and this is for my new instance. So we have created one more instance. Now how to connect with that? So we will say psql-h localhost-p, port number is 5433, and the user is Postgre. Just execute this, and we are logged in to the new instance. Just quit out of this, and we will see one more command, how to stop the server. To stop the server, everything remains same. You just have to replace your so we'll say pgctl-d directory location where all the data files are there, then -l log file name. If you want to give, then stop, just say stop, and it is going to you can see that server is stopped. If you say ps if you try to connect to new instance, it is showing that there is some problem. The problem is it has been down. And if you just say psxf, it will show you that the background processes are obviously down for new instance. This is the old instance. And in case you have to start it again, just say start bgctl-d directory location and start. You start it, it is starting. And then finally, if you have to reload, uh, you made some changes, and if you have to reload it, then just say pgctl-d directory name -l log name, then reload. So signaled, and it is done. You can see our background processes for new Postgre is available now. So this is how we create a new instance. So just a recap, we create a new directory where the data file will go. The data file will go to this location. Then you just say initdb and the new location. Then you modify port number and Unix socket directory. Then you start the instance using pgctl-d directory location, and then you have to check the process has came up or not, psxf. Then you can try to log in psql-h localhost-p port number and the username. And this is how we create a new instance on Postgre. I hope this is going to help, and thanks for watching.